Chapter 16, We Want You, late September, October 2002. I sometimes think things would have been different if Carlos had stayed. We had the kind of relationship where we could be fist fighting in the morning and sharing ice cream by lunch. He had the same size balls I did, but was more easygoing. On off days, I fretted about who we could work and drew up a lengthy list of impossible missions that Superman on crack wouldn't have been able to complete. Carlos, on the other hand, would sit back and watch MASH marathon on TV. He was a 12-year-old boy in the body of a goatee, 5'10", 200-pound ball of muscle. He'd say to me, "You think you're the hardest working man in ATF? You're not. And even if you were, no one would care. So sit down and watch TV with me and maybe you'll learn something." He balanced me out. If he'd stayed, he would have reminded me to take it easy now and then, something I wouldn't do on my own. October was party month. There was an Arizona Nomads rally on the 5th, a couple of Mesa support parties in the middle of the month, and a party commemorating the Angels' 5th year in the state of Arizona on the 26th. We hoped to go to all of them. Before the party started, however, Smitty called and said we needed to meet. It was September 27th. I said I'd be right over. When I got to Smith's, Lydia was in the yard, as before. She had on a wide-brimmed hat to protect her from the sun. I said, "Yard looks good." She thanked me and pointed to the house. "Old man's inside," she said. I knocked and Smitty let me in. He didn't wear his cut. He held a bottle of Bud. He smiled that winged smile of his. The Smiths looked like they were having a nice day on the old homestead. "Having a nice day at the homestead, huh?" I asked. Smitty smiled some more. His eyes turned to slivers. "You bet. Beer?" "You bet." He ushered me to the table off the kitchen, went to the fridge, got out a beer, and popped it open with an opener on his keychain. He handed me the bottle and sat down. "This is gonna be quick. I gotta leave for church in an hour." "No worries. What up?" I drank. The beer was sweet and cold. I held my pack of cigarettes and raised my eyebrows, making sure it was okay if I smoked. Smitty said, "Of course." I lit it up. "Two things. First, I really need to know what you can tell me about Laughlin, from that girl of yours on the grand jury. If Lydia and me need to get out of the country, I gotta know ahead of time." I nodded and smoked and said, "I'll keep on her. Soon as I hear anything, you'll know." "Good. The other thing is, I'm this close to getting approval to start a Mojave Valley charter of the 8 ones. It'll be me, Dennis, Joby, a couple other Arizona Nomads, a brother from Barstow who's gonna open up a tattoo shop, and a couple of prospects." I nodded. "That's good news. You need more representation around here. I've been hearing about some Mongols setting up over the hill in Kingman." Kingman was just east of Bullhead. Smitty grimaced. "Joby said the same shit. Ain't good. You tell me anything you hear about those bitches, got it?" I nodded deeply. This was serious business. Smitty reached hard for the pack of Marlboro Reds. He flipped the top open and drew one out. My lighter was lit as he slipped it between his lips. He pulled on the cigarette. The tip flared up. He nodded. I clicked my Zippo shut. He nodded again. "That's what I'm talking about, Bird. You know how to act." I nodded again. He smoked with conviction. He inhaled a large blue puff and it didn't come out. "Here it is, Bird. We need more people like you. I want you, Timmy, and Pops to come with us at Mojave Valley. I've spoken to Dennis and he approves. He didn't mention Rudy because we kept him on a short leash and Smitty hadn't met him. Rudy was too unpredictable to be gumming up the works all over the state. This was a very exciting development, but I couldn't accept for a few reasons. Joining while the case was still in its early stages wasn't feasible, let alone advisable. I knew that as an Angel prospect, I wouldn't be able to operate with the same freedom I had had as a solo Angels nomad. Not to mention that Slats and our bosses would have to approve such a move. I decided to offer Smitty a non-denial denial and consult with the rest of the Black Biscuit task force. But I still took comfort from Smitty's overture. The emotional way he'd received the news of Carlos's departure and this sudden recruitment were excellent signs that we were being accepted, even coveted. They were proof we were doing a very good job. As I mulled over his offer, I must have paused for a moment too long because Smitty demanded, "Did you hear what I said, Bird?" I lit another cigarette. "Hear you? You kidding, Smith? You're asking if I want to become a Hell's Angel? Timmy and Pops too. I want the Arizona Solo Angel Nomads to patch over. I drank my beer. It was hot and the beer was already getting warm. I gave Smitty my considered and technically honest answer. Look, Smitty, no disrespect, but I gotta think about that. I have to talk to my P, Rudy. Bob knows him. I got loyalties to the Solos and I just can't give up on them. Loyalty is Trump, I understand. He flicked a fragile column of ash into a Hell's Angels ashtray. Of course, think about it, you have to. I know you have what it takes, but remember, it takes a lot. He tipped back his bottle. I finished mine. Now, I gotta go to church. He stayed seated. Our meeting was over. I stood up. I stuck out my hand. Thank you, Smitty. He grabbed my hand from his chair, smiling. I'll see you soon, Bird. October 5th. On the way to the patch, I stopped at Starbucks. They already had the Halloween seasonal, a pumpkin flavored latte with brown sugar cinnamon sprinkles. I love the seasonals at Starbucks. I get them with extra foam and low-fat milk. Totally lame, but there you go. As I walked through the Black Biscuit headquarters, Slats asked, "What the fuck is that?" He pointed at my coffee. A triple venti pumpkin spice latte, extra foam, extra sprinkles. What does it look like? He hung his head and turned around. The agents were getting ready to head to an Angels Nomad rally in Belmont, a town west of Flagstaff. It was an afternoon run, not a ton of partying. We planned on dropping in, paying our respects, and coming back to Phoenix. We did a mini gauntlet. Slats fired questions at us. Where you living these days? Solos, huh? Never heard of them. Where they from? Where'd you say your business was again? What's that tat for? Where'd you say you used to live? What kind of bike is that? Who's your president? Where is he? Slats barked at me. Where's your old lady? You're looking like a free bird, dude. That's so. I got some choice pussy I can hook you up with. Slats played a convincing dickhead biker pimp. I'll be the judge of that. Follow me. That's okay. You want to bring him around? I said I was a free bird, not desperate. I do good enough. I don't gotta follow you around to look up some skirts. Slats spat into a Coke can and broke character. He leaned into a metal folding chair, the hard gray back pressed into his chest. I don't know about that. What am I supposed to say? Not that? Dude, I think that's pretty good. Besides, they're already calling us the gay solo nomads. That's gotta give. I know, but you gotta make a better show than that. Well, I could always fuck my beer can, I inhaled sharply. Give me a girlfriend, dude. Working on it. Work harder. Working on it. Little clash of cop egos. I knew Slats had hit a glass ceiling with the brass in securing a female operative. Like it or not, this business takes place in a man's world. I'm of the minority opinion in law enforcement circles that women are as capable and essential as men are in undercover assignments. But the truth is that they have a hard road to walk. Most of the time, they play girlfriends, runners, or mules. What I needed was a woman whom the Hells Angels would actually respect. Slats had brought a few women to assist for short periods, but circumstances had kept them from being able to commit. I wanted Karen from New York, but her boss adamantly refused her participation. I became convinced that Jenna McGuire was the best alternative. Her contact with Smitty and Lydia had been impressive, and her youth, good humor, and attractiveness were solid pluses. The problem was getting her. Her superiors and more experienced co-workers had been warning her not to go with me, who had a reputation for wild impulsiveness, into the violent, misogynistic world of the Hells Angels. Her reply was that at least the Angels wore their sexism on their sleeves. JJ's bosses didn't much like that. There was nothing we could do about it before the Angels Nomads rally, so we suited up. I insisted we trailer the bikes to Flagstaff and ride the final few miles to the actual rally. Neither Timmy nor Pops put on much of a fight. Pops was our designated driver. He pulled the truck around to the back of the patch. Timmy and I pushed the bikes into position. Pops got out of the truck and opened the trailer, not paying attention to where his bike was parked. As he dropped the truck's gate, it hit the top of his bike's front wheel and the bike fell over. Pops said, "Shit." Timmy and I laughed. Pops pulled the truck forward and we picked up his bike and strapped it in. Timmy went to use the head while Pops and I finished. As we pushed my bike into the back, I turned my ankle slightly and momentarily let go of my side of the bike. suddenly transferring all the weight to Pops, who was not in good enough position to hold it. The bike rolled back over my other foot and fell into Pops, who managed to keep it upright. I cursed and helped him up. He wasn't amused. We strapped my bike in as Timmy began to roll his bike up the ramp. As I've said, Timmy was a big, strong man, but he misjudged the weight of his bike on an incline. He got it halfway up the ramp, lost momentum, and held it there. He asked for help. Slats watched the whole thing, chewing chaw like cud. Most of the task force agents stood behind him, shaking their heads. As we walked down the ramp, Slats spat and said, "You guys look like a bunch of zoo monkeys trying to fuck a football." Everyone behind him howled. We did too. From then on, in all of our coded conversations, reports, and correspondences, we were codenamed the Monkeys. For brevity's sake, I was M1, Timmy was M2, and Pops was M4. We reserved M3 for dear departed Carlos, should he ever return. We rode to Flagstaff, parked the trailer north of a town in a Waffle House lot, got out of the truck, rubbed oil on our foreheads, and rolled around in the dirt to make it look like we just ridden 150 miles. The rally was at the Belmont Harley dealership and Roadhouse Tavern. The cynic in me couldn't help thinking that a bar and a bike dealership were the perfect combination of a symbiotic enterprise, kind of like a jail and a bail bonds, or a gun shop and a liquor store. Billy Schmidt, a hangaround who wanted a prospect for Dennis, worked the ticket gate with Dolly, Dennis's platinum blonde, near toothless fiance. We said hi to them and started to pay. Dolly told us not to worry about it, but I insisted. We went back and forth. Ultimately, we each paid $5 and got our hands stamped with the number 81 in blue ink. We sauntered into the parking lot where a few barbecues were smoking. A large tent was erected and Hell's Angels posters flapped in the breeze. The Harley dealership had lined up a phalanx of fresh floor models, and the tavern end of the operation had set up several kegs and iced garbage cans. Everyone milled around drinking beer, smoking, and bullshitting. No one was openly armed, us included, as the warning had gone out to be clean for the rally. Smitty greeted us and led us to a group that included Dennis and Turtle. Other clubs in attendance were the Red Devils, the Spartans, the Rough Riders, and the Desert Road Riders. Pops went and got as many beers as he could carry, and we commenced drinking and standing around. There was a line of smoke-colored ponderosa pines to the north. I noticed two black vultures drawing lazy spirals in the sky. We were living the glorious, free life of the Hells Angels. I asked Smitty if there was anyone doing business that day. He said no. He said this was a public rally, and we couldn't be sure of who was in attendance. The implication being informants or even, perish the thought, undercover cops. He said the uniforms were parked out on the interstate, waiting for an excuse to pounce. I agreed. We shouldn't give it to them. Unsurprisingly, a couple of old buddies were in attendance too, Varvo and Abraham. Sugar Bear hadn't arrested them yet. I thoroughly and completely blew them off. I was hanging out with the Angels, with their local hero, Smitty, and they no longer deserved my attention. I could see them eyeing me jealously from across the parking lot, and I fought the urge to fall down laughing. I told Smitty we weren't staying long, that we had a job the next day and wanted to get back to Phoenix. He told us to stick around, spend the night, get a room at the Geronimo Inn. We made a snap decision and stayed. At some point, Steve Helen, an Arizona nomad and close friend of Smitty and Dennis, came over with his wife, Cheryl, and a couple of girls who looked to be about 16. The girls were attractive. Both wore cut-off jean shorts and HA support t-shirts. They reminded me, as all young women did, of my daughter. Helen said to me, "Hey Bird, this is my daughter April and her friend Michelle. They've been wanting to meet you." Smitty said, "Yeah, Bird, you should hang around with these girls, get to know them." Cheryl Helen nodded, a smile plastered on her face. I was being offered the flesh of a minor and that of her friend by her own father. I didn't know whether to laugh or simply assault the Helens. In retrospect, I think they were offering to me because while I was a biker and a debt collector and a gun runner and a supposed hitman, I had my act together, wasn't a drug addict, and treated myself and others with some measure of respect. In the biker world, I was a catch. Sad. I declined, saying I was plenty capable of getting in trouble without involving a 14-year-old. Everyone chuckled. April said she was 18, which gave me zero pause. She was still a girl. Helen leaned in and growled, "If she's old enough to sit at the table, she's old enough to eat." He smiled at his wife, who shrugged. April and Michelle stood around for a couple more minutes, then wandered away. Lydia, who'd heard the whole thing, asked if I'd spoken to JJ lately. I said I could speak to her right now. I flipped open my phone and dialed her up. She wasn't expecting my call, but I didn't have to speak any code to let her know what the story was. JJ immediately fell into the role. Lydia demanded the phone. They gabbed about the rally, Bullhead, San Diego, and me. I heard Lydia say, "We love Bird." That's damn right. Lydia passed the phone to Smitty, who spoke to JJ for a few minutes. He mentioned his birthday and the cake she'd fed him and how he'd never forget it. Smitty handed me the phone. I said, "Take her easy, sweetheart. I'll be seeing you soon."